1, go.
Hello, and welcome to the Praying Wife podcast. I am your host, Corinne Cash, and I am so excited to be with you. As you guys know, every time we get together, it is such a blessing. And so wherever you're listening in, if you are watching me in your car, if you're in your living room, your bedroom, wherever you are, welcome. We are into the month of May. As you know, in this entire month, we've been talking about building a godly and a stronger marriage. And today I am so excited because we have a very special guest joining us today on the podcast, Miss Sage Fress. Now, I want to make sure I pronounce the last name right because it's the same thing kind of with me. Please introduce yourself. She is amazing. And I'm just going to let her just kind of give you guys a glimpse into her life. But Sage, tell us more about you.
Hey, yes, thank you for having me on this podcast. I'm so excited to be here with this community of women and women who take their faith seriously and are interested in marriage as something very important. My name is Sage Frese. I'm married to a German, so it's a German name. I'm here because my marriage was once in a really, really dark place. And we had promised to never leave each other, but it was kind of like a life sentence, kind of living a nightmare. And I had wanted to follow Jesus and actually had been really interested in singleness as a way of following Jesus and giving my life to Jesus. And then found a man who was similarly committed, very serious about his Christianity. And we decided to marry, to live out our commitments in that way. And pretty quickly, it just went downhill. And I found myself just settling for surviving and just kind of giving up my dream of thriving in my life with God and helping anyone else because I was just trying to stay afloat. So, that's why I'm here talking about what happened as a result and how God came and met me in that darkness and brought me to the light. So,
and for those of you who don't know, she's such a humble young lady, but she actually has a bachelor's degree in theology and in ministry as well. And so I'm so excited to have you here because today, as she started to talk about her marriage, and a lot of times we enter into marriage and we think that it's going to be, this awesome, stress-free, bed of roses. And we quickly realize that it's hard work, that it takes a lot to keep going. And so today we really wanted to focus on building intimacy and unity in our marriage. And so Sage, you started to talk about kind of when things went downhill. How was your intimacy with your husband during this time? Before that, like, did it start off on fire and then it kind of dwindled, or like, did you struggle from the beginning?
We struggled pretty much from the very beginning. We had a good friendship to begin with, but pretty much right when we stepped into marriage, and really before we got married, I could already see that we were struggling. But I had this idea. I actually had the idea that marriage was supposed to make me holy. And so I kind of entered marriage thinking, well, it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be hard. And so I thought I was kind of doing the right thing because it felt so hard. From the very beginning, it was our home was very tense. There was a lot of competition, no emotional safety. My husband told me about 3 weeks after we married that he lost all attraction to me. And I really lost respect for him.
Oh, wow.
Like almost immediately. It was really bad. And then we had a son about a year into our marriage. And so it created just a really difficult environment for our son to grow up in. Lots of yelling, lots of just cold wars for, a couple weeks on end. And it was really hard.
Wow.
Yep.
Talk to me about that, because that must have been, so I can't imagine 3 weeks in, for your husband to just kind of tell you, hey, I'm no longer attracted to you. That can destroy I'm sure it did. It destroyed how you like you said, you lost all respect. But how did you guys work to build the emotional side? How did you get yourself to a place where you can kind of put that behind you and grow in your marriage?
So, well, what you would think we would naturally do with that situation, we did, which was move to a developing country and where we had no relationships, we didn't know the language, no connections, and no jobs. And so that's what we did. We moved to Guatemala about 5 years in, and we both still sincerely wanted to follow Jesus and to, yeah, try to work with him, even though our marriage was such a wreck. So, so we got here, and really, if we had any resources before that, they were just gone. Like, it was so much worse, you know. And I was like crying on my neighbor's shoulders, and I was like, "Wait, we were here trying to, share some love here." So I remember one night, just laying in bed, and it was one of those prayers. It was like I knew it was shooting straight to God, because I just said, if you want to use us at all in this life, like, you have to show us something, because we're making things worse on our street. And then after that, I naturally started Googling, and I just Googled this issue. One of the many issues we were having, which was, what do I do if my husband isn't attracted to me? Like, what am I supposed to do? And this woman popped up. She's now my marriage mentor. Laura Doyle is her name. And it was the first time marriage advice was like immediately empowering, because she was not talking to a couple. She was talking only to women. And she didn't talk to me about losing weight or lingerie or something like that. She convicted me.
Wow.
And she was talking about respect in a way that I just immediately knew I didn't have it. Whatever it was, I didn't have it for my husband. And so that first blog that I read, she was just sharing about herself. Yeah. But I was like, wow, this woman has been in my living room, and she's been seeing everything I've been doing. And it gave me this thought, Corinne, like, wow, for all these years, I thought, we don't have a good relationship. We don't have emotional safety because I'm married to a wounded, immature, narcissist. That's what I thought, basically. Oh, wow. And so I'm powerless over this situation, because what am I supposed to do, Mm-hmm. And so this is the first time that she was my eyes were being opened to the fact that I was participating in creating this dynamic. And I just had no idea before that moment.
How did
and
that
everyone
make
around
you feel?
me, they were confirming that I wasn't the problem. So
right, and I can imagine, because you're probably asking friends, and when you talk to your friends, they're like, "No, it's him. He needs to do better. He needs to get his life in order." Wow, how did that make you feel when she kind of just turned that to you in the mirror and like, "No, look into the mirror, and you're the problem."
Yeah. I just get still emotional about that moment, because I had just begged God for so many years on my knees, like, please help him see. And
wow.
And so that moment was actually just such a deep moment of hope. I just felt so much hope, because I saw something that I could do. And I was just kind of ecstatic. I just, from there, started reading more, just devouring what she was putting out. And I started practicing she has these 6 skills she teaches, and I started practicing them, and immediately I started seeing changes in our relationship. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you started to do? Because now it took the focus off of your husband, and now it's you kind of looking in. And what are some of those things that got you through? Because I'm sure many of the women that are listening, they might be going through the exact same thing, and they might be in that place of, God, what is it? Like, is it me? Like, what can I do? Like, I need a sign. I need to know what I can do. So what are some of those things that you did that took you from that place to where you are now?
Yeah. Well, I feel like we could talk for so long, Corinne, but one of the first things I did was issue some big apologies. And, Laura was basically showing me that my husband and I, in one regard, had the same issue. He wasn't attracted to me, and I didn't have respect for him. So in other words, I wasn't attracted to him, his way of parenting, his way of seeing God, his jokes, what he talked about at dinner conversations, or, at dinner parties.
Wow.
I wasn't attracted to him. I didn't have respect for him. And it's just amazing, but I really thought I am the more mature one. I came from a healthier family. Like, I just have to help him see. And I just didn't realize how unbelievably judgmental and proud I was before marriage. But this is just bringing it out and putting a laser focus on one other person. And so I just started by writing some of these apologies out and saying, I want to apologize for the way that I have disrespected you as a father when I've tried to explain our son to you, tried to explain his perspective, when I physically removed him from, your presence. I want to apologize for being disrespectful when I tried to manage your relationship with my mom. When I made fun of the kind of worship music you were listening to, just the disrespect was, it was everywhere once I started seeing it. And so, he actually got really mad. He actually got really mad with this first apology, because he said, I've been trying to tell you these things for years now. And some woman on a podcast says it, and suddenly it makes sense. But the thing is, when you're in so much pain, because he was doing things too, we're both hurting each other.
Right.
And when you're in so much pain, you can't see yourself clearly. And I needed that other woman, and actually she has a community of women. Yeah. I needed those other women and the strength they gave me to tell me, you're not alone. My pain was real too. To then be able to take my part and start to take responsibility for that. Right. So that's one of the first things I did. And after a couple weeks, this huge German man, we were sitting at lunch, and he hadn't really talked to me in a couple weeks, and he just broke down crying. And he said, I'm just so scared to hope that something could be different between us.
Wow.
So I knew right there that something was going to be different. Yeah. Because I was changing.
Wow, that is amazing. And how did that affect moving forward I would say even your spiritual walk together? Because like you said, you were both trying to follow Jesus. And how did that bring you guys kind of closer together and closer to God, even in that walk?
Yeah. Well, in so many ways, as I started hearing my husband out, I started, one of the things that Laura encourages is basically taking your thoughts captive and just becoming aware. How am I thinking about him?
Yeah.
And I had to admit, I thought I had married a fool. And it was really my fear about the future, about decisions he was making. It was really my lack of trust in God is ultimately what it was. But I had to start to get in touch with how I was looking at him.
Yeah.
And when I started experimenting with flipping that to say, wait a second, is there any evidence that he's not a fool? That he might be wise in some ways?
Wise, right.
That he might be someone I could respect? Is there any possibility that it's not so black and white? And once I started doing that, Corinne, it just opened up so many possibilities. And I just started to be able to listen to him without interrupting. And I heard things that really surprised me, that started to undo this story for me of he's not only immature. Yeah, he's only selfish. He's only and so it gave me hope in God again. And I think I can't speak for him, but I think for both of us, we were damaging each other's image of God. Yeah. And it allowed us to kind of get off each other's backs.
Yeah.
And have to look at ourselves. And anyway, it was a beautiful thing, and it had so many effects. Our physical intimacy before was so unsafe, so insecure. And it was really just the face of our relationship right there, you know?
Right, right.
And through this process, it's just so interesting that we, when I focus on myself and who I want to show up as, and the kind of person I want to be, it just all the issues resolve themselves, like mostly.
Yeah,
So
that's so
anyway,
true.
yeah,
No, that is so great, man. You said so many great things. One of the important things, and I hope everyone hears this, you said it was really not just a lack of trust in your husband, it was a lack of trust in God. Because
yes,
when we put all of our expectation and we rely on our husband to be our sole source of joy, of happiness and strength and provision and all of that, now you're taking the focus off of your heavenly father, who is supposed to be all of these things to you. And now you're putting that expectation on him. And when we show that we're kind of insecure in our marriage, it really isn't like you're insecure because you don't think your husband can provide. It's more so, where is your trust?
yeah,
Who is at the source of that? And so it's so important that we always focus and we love and we respect our husbands, but we remember who the source of everything that we need is, and that is in our heavenly Father. And I'm
yeah,
so happy that you mentioned that. And something again, you said it's your perspective that had to shift,
yes,
because it's so easy to play the blame game. It's
yes,
so easy to look at the flaws in someone else. And I know that's why Jesus was like, hey, listen, deal with the log in your eye
yeah,
before you try to deal with that little itty bitty thing that's in their eye. You got a whole boat in your eye and you're trying to
yeah.
just take a little piece of wood out of the other person's eye. And
Which
so
is
it's,
really, really hard to. It took a lot for me to get to the place where I saw that is what was happening. That I had
yeah,
this log. That it took a lot because my husband was also doing wrong, and
right, right.
his sins seemed really, really loud to me, much louder than mine.
Yeah,
He was very angry. He was, and now looking back, I see he was extremely hurt. He was so hurt, but he was very angry. He was very cold. He would withdraw. He blamed me for everything, and he started controlling me. And so with that environment, it's really hard to look at yourself. But the encouraging thing is, I promise you, because now I work with women all the time, and this is what we do. We support each other to be able to look at ourselves,
yeah,
and let God reveal us, to ourselves. And when we just focus on that, that we're a mirror.
yeah.
My husband mirrors me. When I show up with that apology, I often get the same from him.
Mm,
When I show up with vulnerability rather than anger,
yeah, yeah,
I receive his vulnerable heart. So anyway, it took something for me to get there to be able
yeah.
to see that. So I just want to say, for women who are listening that are like, well, you don't know my husband.
You
It
know,
was really bad from his side too.
yeah.
And yeah,
It's true. I often pray, God, help me to see my husband through your eyes and not my own.
yeah,
Because when we shift our focus, it's easy to see them. Just like you said, I can see your flaws. It's right in front of me. Like I can feel the hurt. I can see you doing this. But sometimes we forget that our husband is also a child of God and
yes,
God loves them too. And in the
mm,
same way we need forgiveness, in the same way we need grace, our husband needs the exact same thing.
yeah,
And so I think it is so profound. And I'm hoping that every woman listening, that if you are dealing with the same thing, that you take the same approach Sage did. I think the coming in with the apology,
yeah,
that is so impactful,
yes,
because it takes your guard down and it requires you to be humble.
yes,
It's so hard for some reason for people to say sorry, even kids. It's like I feel like it's the hardest thing for them. It's like I don't want to say sorry because it's
yeah,
like an admitting that you're at fault or that you did something wrong. But
mm,
to humble yourself and have that humility and that respect to say, I did something, like I am in the wrong. I want you to forgive me. And not focusing on, well, you did this, not saying it in a way
yes.
where it's like,
That's the thing.
I'm apologizing so you can also own up to what you did. No,
Yes,
He could not even respond. But
Yes.
you taking that first step and you saying, I will own my part,
Yes.
because we all have a part. We
That's
all have a
right.
part. And so for the
Yes.
even for the women who might be listening to say, oh, I don't do anything wrong.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the
Everyone has a
empowering
part.
part, Corinne. It's a position of powerlessness to
Yeah.
blame my husband for everything because I can't change him. I cannot
Yes.
control him. And so it's so empowering to think, it was natural for me to say, well, this is his fault because he's angry and he's selfish. And then that was natural to feel that way, that to blame him for yelling at me or yelling at myself. What wasn't natural was to rewind the tape and to ask, when did that man start becoming so angry?
Mm,
And what was happening?
right. Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but it's powerful. And maybe my husband won't see his part, but something happens in the spiritual world when I, in front of God, just want to get that clean.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, another thing I wanted to mention, you asked about. I love these. I don't know, the titles or the subtopics: emotional intimacy,
Yeah.
creating spaces for connection. And I had really received this message from culture that emotional safety was being able to say whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, and that
Yes.
somehow was just my vulnerable heart. It was being honest, and if I had emotional safety in my marriage, my husband would just be able to take that. And I didn't have that. He would become irate and shut down. And what I started to recognize was that most of my vulnerability
Yeah.
was actually criticism of him. And to
Mm,
learn how to, Laura talks about getting on my paper. What is it I'm feeling on my paper
yeah.
about me? So instead of saying, you know, uh, when you when you yell at our son, it makes me feel sad or something like that.
Right. Right.
That might be true. That is going to land only as criticism. Um, so those kinds of things, I typically don't go to him about. Um, but what I can say to him is something on my paper about, for example, with our son, I might say, um, I'm really missing our son. I'm really missing laughing with him or something like that.
Right. Right.
That is something within my control. It's my feeling about me. And so I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but the more space I gave my husband I wasn't the shrew over his shoulder,
Yeah.
like nagging on him.
Right.
He
Right.
then could feel that responsibility himself and start to decide what kind of father he wanted to be instead of just defending himself and reacting and responding. And so I'm just learning a lot about what emotional safety is and what it isn't. Because that's
Right.
not emotionally safe for me to just throw daggers at him and call it
Right.
vulnerability, you know?
Right,
Um,
right. Try to
yeah,
disguise it as that. I know my husband
yeah,
and I went to a session, and one of the rules, it was like a marriage class. So one of the rules was, I statements. There
yeah,
was there, you weren't allowed to finger point or say, they had a little hula, and it's like only you can fit in the hula, and it's like this is who you're talking about. So even with addressing issues, it's kind of what you were describing. It's like instead of saying you do this and you do that, it's man, I feel sad when my son is feeling sad, something like that. And so it's like more so you're expressing how you feel, where it's not a
mm,
direct jab at your spouse. Because
mm,
again, yes, they will start to get defensive because they feel attacked. And
yeah,
so just understanding how to maneuver that is so important. And that builds emotional connection and
yeah,
emotional unity together, because now you
mm,
understand you're looking out for your spouse's feelings. Your spouse
mm-hmm,
is beginning to understand how you feel about certain things, and that will in turn just have them adjust their actions
yeah,
without having to be defensive. They're like, okay,
mm-hmm,
this makes my wife sad. And then they'll start to internalize and just kind of think of, okay, am I playing a part in that? Like, what are some of the things that I'm doing? And so that is so good. That is so good for physical intimacy for you guys? Because you mentioned, it was really insecure and all that. How did you maneuver that? And how
Yeah.
did you guys just find this safe space to be physically intimate together and actually enjoy? I'll say, and like just enjoy having sex.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Well, there are a few things. Respect was a huge one. Restoring respect and continuing to do that. That was huge. That my husband felt like he was someone that I regarded as important and really, really important.
Yeah.
And so before he felt like he would say, like, I felt like I was sleeping with my mother. Like I was his mother, he was my son. But that was the feeling I had.
Yeah.
I felt like he was more like a child.
Yeah.
So how is that supposed to be attractive, for either of us? So it wasn't just a negative for him for me to feel that way. That was negative for me. Yeah. So also, I came into marriage with all these
like false expectations.
Yeah, expectations. Just lots of deception around myself, my husband, and what intimacy was. And I was terrified about his sexual past. And what I didn't realize is that it actually, I was so focused on him and his sexual past, but underneath it all, it was about my own fear about myself. Ultimately, like my identity, and when I could peel back that layer to get to what is this sexual past triggering about me, the fear about me, and it was something like, I'm afraid I'm not going to be enough. Wow. I'm not enough. Mm-hmm. And I had to work with that and take responsibility for that fear rather than pushing it on him and his past. I brought it once again back to me and God, and with these women, I could get under that negative belief, that false belief about myself. Yeah. One that I'm not enough, actually, and it's okay. And I am enough. And that allowed me to just get rid of a lot of the emotional baggage coming in and show up with joy and confidence. And another thing was I had kind of become a victim in my home, like because of all the stuff there was to do and, the house cleaning and the child keeping. And my husband was not wanting to help me because I was so critical. And I really had lost this ability to be, I wasn't pleasable.
Wow.
So he kind of would say, like, it doesn't matter what I do, it's never going to be enough. So he kind of had the same thing going on, right? It's never going to be enough. And so when I started, Laura has this invitation, like, would you like to take responsibility for your happiness, for your joy? And I kind of, even though I would kind of make fun of women who would say, like, I need him to do something for me to be happy. That's really what I was doing. Yeah. If he would just change, then I could be happy.
I could be happy, yeah.
That was where I was. And I remember the day when I just made a decision. I'm taking responsibility for my joy and my peace and my happiness back. It doesn't matter what he's doing. That's my responsibility. And I started doing that through what we typically call self-care. But I just found I got back in touch with life. I took off that martyr outfit and just said, what do I want, out of this life, this good life? Yeah. And so I started doing things like, instead of doing the dishes, even though I was so depleted and resentful, I'll just leave them for a little while, put on some music and maybe dance with my son and the neighbor kids. Just started going on lots of walks, calling my girlfriends, listening to music, emotional music that could get my emotions going. I could cry, have a good cry. I didn't have to take that all to my husband anymore. So I just showed up. I was showing up happy. And my husband I started practicing gratitude for little things, like if he took the trash out, I'd just say, thank you so much. That really lightens my load.
Right.
And it just brought this lightness. Like he knew he could be successful in making me happy. Because it wasn't his responsibility to make me happy, but he could pile on,
Right.
And he felt that shift. He felt the expectations going around physical intimacy, like this needy, sad place where I needed to be fixed. And instead I was confident and happy now. And all that, just the pressure was off. The pressure was off. And I can just say now, our physical intimacy is so great.
That's awesome.
And that is a miracle. If anyone is listening and thinks that they can't transform their physical intimacy, I would just say, just focus on taking responsibility for your happiness again, getting happy, focus on gratitude. What is going well that you can be grateful for, and bring back the respect. That's pretty much all it took in my relationship, Corinne. And we didn't have good intimacy. It wasn't like it came back. We didn't have it in the beginning.
You didn't have it to begin with, right?
So this created it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I hope, ladies, that you have been taking notes and that you've really absorbed everything. I mean, because it's so good. It's a transformation of your thinking. It really boils down to, how do you see yourself? What are your expectations for you? Do you even respect your husband? And more importantly, too, are you spending that time with God, developing yourself and saying, God, shine a light on me and show me the areas that I am falling short. Let me work on me, because yes, my happiness should not be wrapped up into saying, okay, my husband alone. And if he's not treating me right, I'm not happy, and I can't be happy, and I can't be pleased. Yeah. You can have a successful and a beautiful marriage. Yes. But it takes work. It takes you taking responsibility. And something else that you said, it's so important, community. And that's exactly what we are, why we have community. Find yourself in a community of women that can uplift you, not the ones that will keep telling you that it's him and not you. Because you need women who are going to just be honest.
It's really tempting. Yeah.
It's really tempting, And it's good, you're on a lunch date with an old friend and they say that. But find yourself around people who are going to tell you the truth.
They're not going to get on your side.
Exactly.
They want to stand for your marriage.
Stand for your marriage, because at the end of the day, do you want to be right, or do you want to have a happy, successful marriage?
Yes.
And that's what it is. And so thank you. So this has been amazing. Let everyone know, how can they contact you if they wanted to reach out for more information or anything like that?
Well, I am happy to let people know, because I know for me, I had to have, like I said in the beginning, I had to have that, number one, girlfriends, women around me. And so that's one of the reasons I still coach, because I want to keep my relationship good, and I cannot do this without that community.
Yes.
I'm teaching this stuff. I got to live this stuff. That's embarrassing.
There you go.
I'll come to coach and just say, ladies, I just got to admit what I just did. It's a win of realization. So, you can find me at www.marriagecoachingwithsage.com. I also have a Facebook group, but if you just reach out there or look there, you'll find my email address and where to contact me. And we have community meetings several times a week, and I do private coaching too. So I'd love to connect with any of you if this has resonated with you. You're so not alone. If you're in a hard place in your marriage, you are not alone. And I've just seen the most impossible situations turn around again and again and again. When women get the right information and the right support, God just moves. So
amazing. I love it. And more of that information, all of that, if you didn't jot it down, it's going to be in the description. So reach out. But I want to thank you so much. Sage, this has been beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. Everyone, thank you so much just for tuning in and being a part of us this entire month. That's all I have. Thank you so much again. Ladies, as always, as I say, remember that you are beautiful, you are powerful, you are made in the image of God, and you are loved. God bless you. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.